Sorry to interrupt the member. Just before I ask you to resume, you are going to speak on this particular sector. I'm just wanting to make that clear.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll be careful to make sure that my words are directed. In fact, I just talked about, as a new member going through the first year of all the milestones, that it was actually a great pleasure to sit through these and examine the government departments, the various very hard-working public servants that came through. And as I did so and heard people who were essentially answering questions, and I'm reminded of what I've heard today here in the House from my colleagues, and I sort of almost think I'm living in some like a parallel existence. And the people over there, they're good people, and they believe. I just hang on every word. I'm sure they believe everything they have said today about. And if you were sit to listen there, you would think we do live in paradise, that we do live in a rock star economy. So my previous training just makes me perhaps we should look a little through that. And the reason they do believe that is that there was only one goal from that previous government. The rock star economy, unfortunately, it's fine to have a concert where the rock star's paying, but if no one can afford a ticket to the concert or no one is welcome, then it's going to be a pretty small, sad elite conference. And I think that's what's actually happened. Goals where we talked about things like better public services. Well, my experience of better public services was simply cheaper public services. And while we did speak to the chief executives, while we did speak to the various public servants that came through, one of the questions that very much came through from those on the other side of the table was to ask about better public services, about targets, and to the general theme of the questioning was that nothing will happen without these very strict stipulated targets. The whole world will stop. And as we sort of asked those questions of the various public servants that came through, they sort of something of a look came on their faces. Are we allowed to tell the truth here? Because when we did dig down further, clearly there was a belief that those better public services, by breaking down everything that the public service does into something measurable, something we can feedback, something we can all feel good about, something we can believe that we've achieved that little target, therefore the world is a wonderful place. It was quite clear that those achieving of those better public service, achievement of those targets became the end in itself. And that's, as I sit there listening to those fine members on the other side, but they do believe that by looking at what the targets achieved, then it must be all good. We must be in the state of nirvana. Unfortunately, I then sit and look at the figures that have come through. And these are the figures that I won't go through them all because they've been spoken about several times today. But can they believe that we're not short of houses, that we aren't 71,000 short? Well, we are 71,000 short, so you can talk about the Honourable Nick Smith talked about how wonderful the figures were there. Again, if you sat back and listened to those figures, you'd see, what am I worried about? I might as well go and have an early tea now because things are fine. We'll leave it to the opposition to run this because we don't need a change of government. However, it became apparent, Madam Chair, as the various departments came through, and I talk about the housing, I talk about those who came through from MSD, Ministry of Vulnerable Children, Oranga Tamariki. It was quite clear that as we questioned further down and sort of saw a release from the strict BPS targets and the realisation that this government is going to require outcomes. That it's not going to be that if you, as a friend of mine who started a business, believed if he just worked really hard, that it wouldn't matter, the hard work in itself would result in success. Well, it didn't. You have to be clever about what you're doing. And better public services weren't BPS, they weren't clever. I know in my own department I was working in before I came here, that by what they did, by focusing on things that the minister wanted and ignoring the important things, then we have a result. For example, in police, the methamphetamine and gang problem is a direct result today of not actually allowing those who knew what they were doing to actually do what needed doing, but to give them fine and specific targets. And so again, Madam Chair, as I sat listening as part of the whole appropriations, I am confident that next year you'll see a range of public servants coming through empowered and confident that it's the result that matters.
I call Paul Eagle.
Madam Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to take a call on this, the appropriation for social development and housing.